Hello, and in this part 2 video I'm going to describe a trip that you took using public transport, and you should say where you went, what public transport you used, who you were with, and explain how you felt about the trip. Now, you might find this one difficult, you might not use public transport, or you might not have had a memorable trip. I've tried to use lots of vocabulary that you can use in your answer. Obviously, you're not going to describe the same trip as me, but if you're really struggling, you can take lots of elements from my answer and pretend this was your trip. To be perfectly honest, I rarely use public transport, as I live in the middle of nowhere. Therefore, it is more practical for me to use my car, as there are no public transport options in my village. However, only a couple of weeks ago, I did use public transport for a trip to our capital city, because I had tickets for a BTS concert. Because it was on a Tuesday evening, and I didn't want my daughter to miss too much school, the quickest way to get there was by train and underground. Just after lunch, I picked her up from school and raced to the train station and got the high-speed train to London. Just over 2 hours later, we arrived and then rushed to the underground to get to our hotel. The hotel was located a 20-minute walk away from the underground and the O2 where the concert was being held. But due to time constraints, we took a taxi, quickly freshened up, and then walked back to the arena. How did I feel about the trip? Well, on the one hand, it was more relaxing than going by car, because I didn't have the stress of driving in rush hour traffic or getting stuck in a traffic jam. But on the other hand, trains in my country are renowned for being late, and because my schedule was tight, I was a bit stressed about the train being delayed. Luckily, everything worked out perfectly, and there were no delays. I was a bit anxious when I was going across London on the Underground, because it was teeming with people, and I had my daughter with me, and I didn't want to get separated from her. The trip was good because of the ease and convenience, but I would hate to live in London and be a commuter on the London Underground every day. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the language. To be perfectly honest, I've used this in quite a few of the recent videos I've done. I'm trying to repeat a lot of things to really get them into your head to make you use them in the exam, because it's so much better than honestly or frankly, to be perfectly honest. I don't often use public transport. This is a great phrase here, an idiomatic phrase. I live in the middle of nowhere. You can use it when talking about your hometown. If you live in the middle of nowhere, it means you live in a place that's in the countryside and there are not a lot of facilities around, in the middle of nowhere. So it's more practical for me. It's more sensible, practical, useful, because there are no other options. I did use. Here we're using did to reinforce, to stress, because I'm saying I don't normally do it. However, a few weeks ago I did use public transport. And rather than saying London here, I just said our capital city, just to show off a bit more of my vocabulary. A collocation, to miss school, means to not go to school. Picked her up, I collected her. And here I've used a couple of verbs, raced to and rushed to describe that going very fast, you're in a rush, you're racing, rather than just went to the station and went to the underground. I raced to the station, so I'm going very fast in my car. Not too fast, I didn't break the speeding limits, but I raced to the station, and so that can either be on foot or bike, car, it doesn't matter, but it means you're going fast. The high-speed train, again, just to add some more vocabulary in there. And I rushed to the underground, so I'm going fast. It was located, so again, vocabulary from describing hometowns. And the concert was being held, some very complex passive grammar there. due to time constraints, because of time constraints. Time constraints means when you have not much time to do something. Freshened up. This is a phrasal verb, to freshen up, and it means to kind of brush your teeth, have a quick wash, to make yourself feel fresh again. So very useful for this topic, freshened up. And then we walk back to the arena. This is where the concert was, like the stadium, concert hall, arena. Here I've used something called a rhetorical question. It's where you ask a question, but you're not requiring somebody else to answer it. And I'm basically just reading a question similar to the one on the cue card. How did I feel about the trip? And it gives you a little bit more thinking time before you're answering the question. On the one hand, on the other hand, I don't recommend these for IELTS writing because I think they're not complex enough, but fine for IELTS speaking. And very useful for this topic. Think about rush hour traffic. In the UK, rush hour traffic is often between 7 and 9 a.m. and then 4 till 6 p.m. and you can use it for this topic. Getting stuck in a traffic jam, again, useful for this topic of public transport. Here are renowned for, we've used this in the videos about hometown as well, is famous for. So trains in my country are famous for being late. Trains in my country are renowned for being late. Your schedule is your plan of activities, so your plan for the day. And so because I had very little time, we talk about a tight schedule. My schedule was tight, and it means I didn't have a lot of time to spare. And the train being delayed, this means the train is late. Luckily, fortunately, and here's a good collocation, to work out perfectly. So everything worked out perfectly, meaning everything went to plan. There were no delays, so everything was on time. I was a bit anxious. This is concerned, worried, nervous, because I was going across London, past continuous. And this is one I think I've used in hometowns describing places. It was teeming with people, and it means it was full of people. And I didn't want to get separated, so when you move apart from somebody and you can't see them. The ease and convenience. So it's easy and convenient, but IELTS examiners like it when you use nominalisation, which is using nouns, the ease and convenience. And I just wanted to get this word in because it's a good one for this topic. A commuter is a person who travels from one place to another to get to work, often by public transport. And I'm saying I wouldn't like to be a commuter using the London Underground every day. So obviously you maybe can't talk about my specific trip in your answer, but there's certainly lots of vocabulary in here that you can use. So think about a tight schedule. My schedule was tight. Think about delays. Think about rush hour traffic, getting stuck in a traffic jam, ease and convenience. Did everything work out perfectly? Or maybe it didn't work out perfectly because you were delayed. So lots of useful vocabulary for this topic of public transport. Hope you found that useful, and thanks for watching.